on waters permits and shoreland and floodplain management. So you can see there's about every 20 years there's been an initiative. In 2005, through the Governor's Clean Water Initiative, a pilot project was established in the 5-county area around Brainerd, which led to the development of voluntary alternative shoreland standards to address emerging issues in shoreland development that was observed in that area. You have to recognize that's an area of a lot of lakes, a lot of people, a lot of growth, a lot of development, and so it was an appropriate place to begin. We finished that project up in 2007. 2005 actually. It started in 2003, finished in 2005. And there have been a number of counties and some cities that have taken elements of those alternative standards and incorporated them into their local shoreland ordinances. However, in 2007, the legislature took action and directed DNR to commence rulemaking to update the statewide standards. So that's what we've been about since then. We actually started in earnest in January of 2008, and we're about ready to wrap things up now. The purpose of the shoreland standards is found in the statutes. Pretty general, provide guidance for the wise development of shoreland, of public waters, and thus preserve and enhance the quality of surface waters, preserve the economic and natural environmental values of shorelands. The two go hand in hand, as I think somebody pointed out. And then 3, provide for the wise use of water and related land resources of the state. So water in Minnesota is a public resource. Land depends on who owns it, and shoreland management, of course, is addressed at private land, and therein lies the rub, of course, because there are property rights that are valid and need to be addressed along with the public values that come with wise management of those shorelands. Well, the shoreland district, that as defined by the legislature, is 1,000 feet out from the shoreline of a lake and 300 feet from a river or the landward extent of a floodplain, if such exists. So that's the area in which these standards apply, and it goes down to 25 acres in size for basins in unincorporated areas, counties, and in cities, the cutoff is 10 acres. Rivers, the cutoff is 2 square miles of drainage. Here's some of the things that you'll find in your shoreland ordinance, and it shows just kind of in a schematic view just the statute, Minnesota Statute 103F is what gets the ball rolling. It's where the legislature initiates actions, tells the DNR to develop the standards. We did that through Minnesota Rules 6120, and then those provide the basis for which the local counties and cities establish their land use controls, their shoreland zoning ordinances, which can be more restrictive than the statewide minimum standards. You see the boxes on the right, some of the different elements that are addressed in shoreland management. The lake classifications on the left, there are really only 3 for lakes: natural environment, recreational development, general development. We've extended that a little bit with the new rules, where we recognize in natural environment roughly 73% of all of Minnesota lakes fall into this category, and these are generally the smaller lakes, the more sensitive lakes, the lakes that maybe are going to be more sensitive to development. But as the bigger, more what you would consider recreational lakes are developed or priced out of sight because of the shoreline property values, there's more and more development looking at these smaller lakes. So we've expanded the shoreline classification on natural environment to a sensitive shoreline class for certain high value lakes. river classifications in the current rules, there's a number of them, and we're proposing to change that. We don't think we need quite so many, but it looks like it's still a lot. But the first three, wild, scenic, and recreational, actually are classifications from the Wild and Scenic River Program. There are 6 rivers in Minnesota that fall into the Wild and Scenic River Program, and they exist in a separate set of rules. In this rulemaking process, we took the general provisions of those river standards and rolled them into the shoreland rules to make it more, well, to simplify into more just one set of standards rather than dual sets of standards for the poor local government that should happen to find itself having both a wild and scenic river and some shoreland areas within its jurisdiction. So the first 3 are just wild and scenic river things, but they only apply to those 6 rivers. The 3 general river classifications kind of mimic the lake classifications. We have a general development, we have a natural environment, and we have a new classification that we call cold water, which will apply only to designated trout streams. In a sense, what we're doing is we're putting the trout streams back where they were in the original shoreland rules of 1970, because then the shoreland rules established designated trout streams as natural environment waters, the same as natural environment lakes. A cold water river is about the same as a natural environment classification with a few additional provisions stuck in. I mentioned the 5-county pilot area, Aiken, Cass, Crow Wing, Hubbard, and Itasca County. A lot of work, a lot of good citizen participation on that project led to the development of these voluntary standards. And why was this area chosen? Well, by projected growth, you can see that that area in the Brainerd area is really, we're in a, let's face it, we're in an economic slump right now, but it's not going to last forever, and it's going to pick back up, and if anything, move into high gear, and we're going to see these growth numbers moving up again. So where is that growth focused? Well, of course, it's going to be focused at the more attractive areas, and a lot of that's going to be on our lakes and rivers. So the time seemed opportune to be working on upgrading the shoreland rules, improving the standards to make sure that we want to encourage good development because we know it's going to happen. But we want to make sure that development safeguards the future of not just our generation, but for those to come. And what's the issue? Well, one of them, bigger homes, bigger lawns, bigger boats on smaller lakes. So especially where you have, the lawn coming right down to the water's edge, we could sure use some carbon sequestration in that area. Somebody's trying to call me. Excuse me while I turn this off. So that's some of the problems. So what are we going to do about it? Well, I should mention too that these small lakes, Minnesota has over 5,000 what are called shallow lakes. A shallow lake is generally it's going to be a lake that's under 50 acres in size and less than 15 feet in depth. The reason the depth is important is because that's normally the depth at which light penetrates. So if you happen to be fortunate or unfortunate enough to live on a shallow lake, you know that you got a lot of healthy aquatic vegetation growth there, and you got to learn to live with it. Of course, the problems being then if some of that healthy aquatic vegetation growth happens to be undesirable invasive species. So the distribution of these is